So my new book, Fool, is based on Shakespeare's King Lear. So I'm going to kind of walk you through Shakespeare. This will be Shakespeare in a minute and a half. Hamlet, which is, of course, about a small portion of smoked pork. If you're going to start reading Shakespeare, I would suggest getting something like this, Simply Shakespeare, where it has on one side of the page the Elizabethan English, and then on the other side of the page modern American English. And it makes it a lot easier to figure out what they're talking about, and it makes it a lot more pleasurable to read. There's also No Fear Shakespeare that does the same thing. Trying to get these complete works, these big boys, they're great, except you really do need interpretation. And now you can pretty much get all of the Shakespeare plays in audio, which helps, and most of them on DVD, which helps too. I like the comedies the best, As You Like It, and they come in these nice tiny little versions, so you can kind of be completely mystified. Comedy of Errors is basically wildly irritating. It's sort of like a Marx Brothers movie, but done in Elizabethan English, so you don't understand it. Much Ado About Nothing. There's a great movie that Emma Thompson and what's that other guy, Kenneth Branagh, did of Much Ado About Nothing, and it's actually a really watchable, funny comedy. Julius Caesar, pretty much, yeah, you know that story. Everybody dies. Macbeth, the Scottish play. This has witches in it, which I actually use in my book. I use the witches from Macbeth in Great Burnham Wood, and the witches, you know, double, toil and trouble, witches from Macbeth. So cultural literacy there for you. Midsummer Night's Dream, one of the few original stories, original to Shakespeare. And this is about the fairies in the forest, Titanium and Oberon, basically having a marital spat, the king and queen of the fairies, and how they sort of work it out by screwing with a whole bunch of mortals' lives. One of my favorite comedies, really a fun one to see. We have the Richards over here. Richard II, I don't know. Richard III, everybody knows. Now he's the hunchback. Now is the winter of our discontent is how it opens. And then it ends with my horse, a kingdom for a horse. He basically murders pretty much everybody in the play and then dies himself at the end, so it's cheerful. The Tempest, which is another one of the ones that's original to Shakespeare. Only 3 of them are that weren't drawn from some other story. This is about a wizard who is trapped on an island with his daughter and populated by monsters and fairies, and the shipwreck happens, and it's a fun comedy. It's not really a funny comedy, but it's a fun comedy. Taming of the Shrew. Everybody knows the Taming of the Shrew. There's been many film versions of it, including 10 Things I Hate About You with Julia Stiles, done sort of in a modern high school setting. Othello, Green Monster. It's about a guy who basically strangles his wife for no reason because he thinks she's fooling around. Iago is probably one of the best Shakespearean villains. He's the one that sets it all up. He's behind it all. Another one of those tragedies where nobody's left standing at the end. Romeo and Juliet. For a tragedy, really funny for the first half. And then, not so much. Again, everybody dies. I know I'm ruining it for you, but you know, if it's going to be in the test and they say, what happened? You go, pfft, everybody dies. Bloodiest play, Titus Andronicus. It starts out with a woman being raped, her arms cut off and her tongue cut out. And goes downhill from there. By the time we're done, Titus Andronicus has cooked a bunch of guys in some soup and fed them to their mother. So, you know, cheerful Christmas story. Two Gentlemen of Verona, that's the whole plot. Bill Bryson's book on Shakespeare, excellent survey of all things Shakespearean. If you've got an hour and you want to learn about Shakespeare, this would be the book you want to get. So basically, if you want to, you know, summarize the whole thing, to close out the whole thing, you can just simply say, and in the end, everybody died, because that covers a good 60% of the plays, and most people won't have read them anyway, so they'll just believe you, and they go, whoa, what happened in Othello? You know, everybody died, and you're just like, oh, I saw that one. So, you know, that's Shakespeare. You basically don't need to waste your time on this stuff.